This weekend, President Trump demonstrated just how far the U.S. is willing to go to eliminate a leader seen as a threat to American interests and security.
The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. These are the iron laws that have always determined global power.
Joining us here from Washington, D.C. is Bloomberg's Washington correspondent Tyler Kendall. She's at the White House, and interesting that he talks about national security, probably less the cocaine threat and more the oil and energy dominance, right?
Yeah. Hey, Matt. Good morning. It is clear that the U.S.'s vested economic interest in Venezuela's oil production is top of the list for this administration when it comes to what happens next in Venezuela. In fact, our analysts at Bloomberg Economics say while there is a lot of uncertainty on what that outlook looks like, right now they are downplaying the risk that Venezuela is going to devolve into chaos, but they are upplaying the risk that there's going to be a delayed transition to democracy because this White House has yet to outline some of those key specifics, like when they're expecting an election to take place. And that's because President Trump himself told reporters last night on Air Force One that he needs to see Venezuela's economy come back, in particular with this emphasis on Venezuelan oil production. So it's going to be something to watch closely in the days ahead, as a senior U.S. official does confirm that a coalition will engage diplomatically with those remaining in Venezuela's government in the coming days. But Matt and Danny, at this point, the U.S. has put forward those more immediate priorities that we're going to see a focus on. One, of course, that oil production, but also we've heard the Secretary of State say that they are closely watching that potential curb in illicit narcotics coming into the United States, and then also that Venezuela cuts ties with some key U.S. adversaries, including Iran and Cuba.
Tyler, thank you very much for that. That's Bloomberg's Tyler Kendall reporting live from the White House. Now, Maduro faces U.S. drug trafficking charges later today. Bloomberg's Myles Miller joins us live outside of the Southern District of New York Court in Lower Manhattan. Myles, what's next?
Yeah, Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, are in federal court here in Lower Manhattan. They'll go before a judge at 12 this afternoon. They are facing 4 criminal counts. The lead charge is a narco-terrorism conspiracy, and they lay this case out in very stark terms. They allege that they intended to benefit from a designated foreign terrorist organization, and prosecutors say that for a span of about 25 years, that Maduro and his wife did everything to facilitate moving drugs and drug money into and out of Venezuela. Among the serious charges, that they were able to get diplomatic passports for these drug runners and for these money launderers so that they could get in and out of Venezuela and go to places like Mexico to move those drug proceeds. These are very serious charges. They're talking about protecting roughly 500 tons of cocaine through Honduras over 8 years. And it's very stark and in contrast when you look at the former president of Honduras being pardoned by President Trump. He actually was in the same facility, MDC, where Maduro spent the weekend. And this is a very stark case when you look at what happened in that case, that president being charged and tried and convicted by the U.S. government and then pardoned by Trump. And you have Maduro here facing very serious charges, which could see him be in prison for the rest of his life. In prison, likely the same facility where El Chapo, the former head of the Sinaloa cartel, is.